Welcome to the Build Your Private Practice podcast, a space for Canadian therapists who want to support others, make an impact, and build a sustainable practice that works for them too. I'm your host, Liane Wood, a registered psychotherapist, group practice owner, and business mentor, and I'm here to help you build a private practice that allows you to keep doing the work you love without burning out. Because the people who need your help the most are counting on you, and you deserve a practice that supports you while you support them. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Before we get into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to talk about Jane, a clinic management software and EMR. As a practitioner, your main priority should be caring for your clients, not worrying about rising EMR costs. And that's why Jane has come up with the new Balance Plan, which includes the essential features you need to run your practice without any of the extra stuff you don't. With the Balance Plan, you'll get really helpful features like one-to-one telehealth, email appointment reminders, and unlimited customer support. It's a great fit for new or growing practitioners who are booking up to 20 appointments a month. And the best part is that Jane pays for itself with the cost of just one appointment. So head over to jane.app/pricing to check out their plans starting at $54 a month in Canada. And if you're ready to get started, don't forget to use my code BYPP1MO at sign up for a 1 month grace period on your new account. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Build Your Private Practice podcast. I'm so glad that you're here today. And today I am joined by a very special guest, Ali Taylor, CEO of Jane App, the all-in-one practice management platform that so many of you already use and trust. If you have ever felt weighed down by admin or tech confusion or systems that just weren't built with therapists in mind, then this episode is for you, because we're going to be talking about Jane's mission to support helpers like you, how they're shaping the future of practice management, and practical ways that you can reclaim time and simplify your practice. Ali is hopefully also going to be giving us a little bit of a behind the scenes look at how therapist feedback actually shapes what Jane builds next. So, welcome, Ali. I'm so glad to have you here today for this conversation.
Oh, thank you. It is an honor to be here, Leanne. You've built something really incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'd love to kind of start off with talking about, why Jane is so passionate about helping the helpers. And I keep hearing this a lot, helping the helpers, helping the helpers. So I'd love it if you could share just a little bit about Jane's mission and what helping the helpers really means to you and your team.
Yeah, I love that question because it's nice to be able to talk about our mission. I was talking to somebody once who was in payments, like their whole job was in payments. And she left the payments industry and tried to be kind of an executive in a different area. And then she came back to payments and she said, I just realized payments is just really in my blood.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, that's an interesting passion, payments, to have in your blood. But it kind of made me think like, well, what is in my blood? Like, if I left Jane and this wasn't what I was doing for work, what would
Mhm.
I have to be doing to really feel like my passion was being fulfilled? And I was trying to figure out if is it software? Is it healthcare? Is it small business? Like what part of this? But I think it's really all of it together. So helping the helpers is the mission that our whole team really rallies around. And for me, I was a healthcare provider, like I owned a healthcare practice, not a provider myself. I'm not going to mislead you, but I owned a practice.
Mhm.
And for me, it was really all about taking the admin side of running a practice and helping practitioners that are owner operators just get to do the part of like the real caring for their community with less of that administrative burden. And so we get to do the easy part of like software, and then our customers do the really impressive work of caring for people. And we somehow get a lot of joy from that. It's like this by association joy of helping other people.
I love how you think the software part is the easy part. Because on
Yeah.
my side of things, I'm like, that feels like the hardest part.
I think, yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I'm hoping that the emotional feel of being supported by Jane is the same feel that our practitioners and helpers give their customers, like their patients and clients.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
kind of a nice like follow-on effect. And I do say that our like when do you get a team of like 600 people championing your business? And I hope when people join Jane, I always say they hire Jane in their practice, like we're one
Hmm.
team, that
Hmm.
you get Jane and you also get this team of people that are trying to make your life easier so that you can do that really important work. So
Hmm.
that's the mission behind it. They're really
Hmm.
like trying to make things better. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And how would you say that you make sure that therapist values stay at the core of how Jane operates?
We just had our company retreat in Palm
Yeah.
Springs. I think as you know,
Yeah.
and I got to do, we call them talkie talks, but I really got to share with our team I think actually Bezos originally talked about this as wonderfully dissatisfied customers, but we call them like delightfully dissatisfied. And so
Mm.
even when people are enjoying what you're doing, even when they're like, this is amazing, there's always like this, but it could be better. Like you could be doing more to help us. You could make this feature better. You could add this functionality. And we know that this is true because we get a lot of feedback from our customers. And if you're a Jane user, there's like a under the need help button at the top right, there's a feature request area. And if you
Yes.
click on
Mhm.
that, have you been in there?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I submitted a
Always good.
couple.
And if you go in there, there's just thousands of things. And people upvote them and add comments.
Mhm.
And it's really helpful for us to kind of get a sense around like what else we could do to be helpful. But then Bezos also mentioned this. He's a great communicator, whether or not you're pro Amazon. But he did say that like we also have to invent on behalf of our customers. So sometimes no one will ask us for what we know will be helpful because it'd be hard for anyone to imagine it's even possible for us to provide that service.
Mhm.
So sometimes we're having to invent. And so that's just where we kind of go deep into really deeply trying to understand like, well, what do you not like doing? And
Mhm.
how can we make that easier? Insurance billing tends to come up a lot in that conversation
Well, I'm sure.
and documentation, charting and insurance billing.
Well, yeah, and there is, I think it's honestly amazing how, Jane is set up to really support so many different types of practitioners. Um, and when you're talking about charting,
Yeah.
I can see billing being maybe, I'm not on the software side, so I could be wrong on this, but I can see billing being a little more uniform across
Mhm.
practitioner types. But charting, that just feels
Different.
like the Wild West. Like, I mean, even within mental health, how I chart a session is not the same as how the next psychotherapist or social worker or psychologist charts their session.
Totally. Yeah.
You
And
know,
so much of that depends on like the type of patient you're serving. Like,
yes.
is it a peds practice? Like, are they minors? Are you doing
Hmm.
art therapy where you need to upload a lot of images? Is it like there's just so many different ways. And actually, my mom's a physio, so it's my dad.
Hmm.
And my mom was telling me that she did this charting. It was like a documentation course once. And the whole
Hmm.
idea is your documentation actually it dictates some of your treatment sometimes. Like the order that you have your chart template in or your doc, like
Yeah.
the order you run your sessions. And
Okay.
so if you change the order of that, you change your treatment style. Like
Right.
they're
Yeah.
actually really linked in a really super fascinating way.
Hmm.
And then they are so unique to everybody. So my practice is multidisciplinary, which is where Jane started. I didn't have any electronic charting I had 8 treatment rooms, I think like 12 different specialties working out of that practice.
Hmm.
And so we really had to build something flexible for all the different types of practitioners. But then I would say this to Trevor, I'm like, but just as you were saying, like even within the same discipline, people want to document differently because we all have
Hmm.
styles. And so
Hmm.
and I think we're about to see a big revolution in documentation with AI and we can't
Hmm.
have a podcast, Liane, without talking about AI. I think I have to say
Well, I know that. Yeah,
we're in here
I knew it was
5 minutes
coming
in,
up.
and I didn't say it yet. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's changing how we interact with computers, basically. It's a new way of
Mhm.
interacting with our technology, and I'm super excited about how helpful I think that can be to people.
Yeah, I think it's already changing.
Yeah.
How we're interacting with softwares and different things. And
And
hopefully it just continues to improve and, save us time and, it gets better, right?
am I allowed to ask you questions? I have a question.
Absolutely. Sure.
Great. I want to know, like, what are you hearing from your community about, like, how are people feeling about the idea of AI in
Yeah.
as a tool and in their practice? And yeah, I'm super curious.
Well, I think, little bits and pieces that I've heard have, there is obviously hesitation
Yeah,
around AI. And I think particularly, I can only really speak from the mental health perspective, but there's so much confidentiality
yeah.
around,
It's in the safety of it and
right,
the
and the
privacy.
safety,
Yeah, for sure.
right? And then also looking at, I've heard comments about, AI hallucinating and
Sure.
going off,
It's creative. It's
it's
creative.
it's very creative and really picking up on some of the nuances, when we have a client who's expressing suicidal ideation, what is the AI going to do with that? How is it going
Right.
to
If
like
it's like a chatbot.
yeah, like it is, well, even in a like a session note taker, does it
Mhm.
understand the difference, say, between somebody who's experiencing suicidal ideation, which is just, I want to say just, it's not, just, but
Yeah.
it's
The risk
the
of,
risk factor,
yeah,
right? Like as opposed to actively suicidal. Um,
right.
so there's some of those nuances where there is, that kind of that hesitation of like, is it going to or is it not going
Understand
to?
that.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah, right?
fascinating. I like that. I think I'm really fascinated by how what's I mean, what's being created is this LLM. It's this like large language model. So it's our ability to interact with human language instead of coders needing to be,
Right.
it's just a different way of communicating. But the
Yeah.
first one that became like just widely accessible was Chat GPT. And people,
Yes.
I think, they think Chat GPT is AI, but Chat
Mhm.
GPT is a application that uses AI to
Mhm.
chat. That's why it's called Chat GPT.
Right.
So that was what it was designed for. And you can actually build GPTs for lots of different purposes that have like routine tasks. And then, yeah, I just think it's like, I think it's just such a fascinating and exciting opportunity for us to make things better. And I love what you're saying there because it's kind of like HIPAA or PIPEDA. You need to just tell people, oh, we're HIPAA compliant. People don't know what that means, right? They just know that if you say it, that's what I need to hear. And I'm like, I know what that means, which is fine. That's the whole point. I'll know what it means, so you don't have to, and hopefully you trust that we're doing the right thing. And
Hmm.
AI, that's the same. I'm like, we won't train the model on anything that you put in there. We won't
Hmm.
store this information, or it will be stored in our secure environment. Like, I think there's things that we have to be able to communicate super clearly.
Right.
I appreciate that, and I think that's going to be great. And then I think we just have to build something incredible that people can feel like really confident in. So.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's interesting to me, the way that your community is thinking about it. I like it. If anyone listening has any thoughts, and feel free, message me. Tell me what you think. I want to hear about
Amazing.
it. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Yeah, I think we could probably spend our whole time talking about AI and, the
I
potential of
definitely could.
right,
Yeah.
in practice. But I'd love to, kind of, and I mean, I guess maybe this is leading into it, or we're already there talking about the future of practice management. And,
Mhm.
in addition to AI, what are some of the biggest shifts that you're seeing in the world of practice management?
Um, it's funny, like the world of practice management, I don't even know if that's a thing. Is it a
Is
thing?
it?
It might be
No?
a thing. It probably is. I think, I mean, it's interesting because we serve a lot of different, it's quite fragmented, right? Like there's like a lot of different options out there for people.
Hmm.
But I think specifically in mental health, there's a few players. And then depending where you are on, like, do you need labs? Do you need e-prescribe? Like, are you doing medication? You get more into the pure, like really medical, complicated, kind of enterprise style
Hmm.
systems. So I think we're continuing that shift to consumer style of software, which means it needs to feel delightful. It needs to feel easy to use. Like that's going to continue, which I think we're
Hmm.
well underway there. And then I do think that AI, it's going to be a slow roll because people have to adopt it in a way that feels like you can't do too much change at once. People don't like that. But I think that if you follow out where this technology can go, we will slowly relearn how to interact with technology in a way that's much more human, actually. Because right
Hmm.
now we interact with computers with like the clicky and then the like keywords and tags and all of this stuff, and we do all of that just because it doesn't understand context or human language.
Right.
But I think that will continue to shift. And so I don't think our customer base is going to be ready for like a drastic shift. So it's going to be slow. We'll bring the magic in slowly and build on that. But I
Hmm.
think that there'll be, I don't think people are adopting AI much faster than I was expecting, actually, even in the medical community,
Hmm.
who are usually a bit hesitant to adopt technology.
Well, I think even like, I think if you ask, particularly in the mental health field, what is your number one pain point? Writing notes.
Totally. Write
Like
a note,
always,
but you
churning,
and
right?
taking payment, like you don't want to. So this is the stored cards in Jane is
Mhm.
like I think so magical for this because you
Yes.
finish a session with somebody, you've just had a very intense conversation, and it's kind of hard to be like, okay, now can you write me a check or cash? Like it just like I think it's a bit of an abrupt shift, and in mental health, I think more so than in any other discipline, you're having
Mhm.
this very personal conversations, and then to switch into money is a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
So if you think about the stored cards and being able to just charge, don't worry, I'll just charge your card, and you can book online. Like you don't have to kind of switch into this administrative
Yeah.
conversation.
Hmm.
I think that that is like an example of how technology has managed to shift that relationship into just the parts that you like. So I think
Right.
it will continue hopefully in that direction. My goal is that everything we do at Jane means that you do more of the human side of patient care,
Hmm.
and the stuff that isn't so relational can be done by Jane. Actually, and I think Jane can do relational things. That's what the magic is of a good software. But
Yeah, I was actually thinking that when you're talking about it, I was
yeah.
thinking, yes, the stored credit cards, also the integration with TELUS billing just makes it like so that whole part of things so easy. But a comment that I mean I get in my practice often is, I use the automatic reminders and like the
Mhm.
emails and the text messages and so I mean, yes, I've crafted the message that helps it feel personal, but it's all automated. And
Yeah,
so, it's like set it once and
totally.
it happens every single time. And so the comments that I hear is it just feels so nice to get those reminders and it just feel, it's comforting to know that you're going to let me know. And
Yeah,
uh and it was something I did once
yeah.
and I set it up and now it happens automatically.
Exactly. So anything we can do more in that realm is, I think that's helpful, right? That's helping the helpers. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
just talked about our vision being the idea of vision is building a better future, right? That vision literally is just imagining something better, like a better tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so that's like our job at Jane is to just constantly try to like envision, like what's a better tomorrow? What would be better for all of our customers?
Hmm.
If they didn't have to do that, if they could, not do the parts they don't like. And that's what we're trying to solve. I actually always say I don't know why anyone likes using Jane because every time you're in Jane, you're doing the part of your job you don't like. It's like the worst part of your job. You're using our software. So I'm always surprised anyone has any positive feelings there. So
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
yeah,
And I think, to your point about delight, it's so user friendly already, that when you can, my background is in insurance, so there's,
yeah,
before I was a therapist, and let me tell you, they are not user friendly, those systems.
yeah.
So, coming into this space and using Jane and just experiencing how user friendly it is and how intuitive it is. And that absolutely makes it easy. Easier, for the parts that you don't necessarily
Want to
like.
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is actually one of our scaling challenges too, is to make Jane robust enough to serve all the needs that everyone has. And if you go into that feature request list, you'll know that there's so many, and there's so many that you're like, well, I don't need that. Like I
Right.
wouldn't need that, but
Yeah.
still, there's lots of people who do. So we're kind of trying to build a flexible, um, a flexible service like helper, but at the same time, it should feel simple, and you should only see the parts you want to see and you want to use. And so it's always that balance of trying to make
Hmm.
it robust
Hmm.
and helpful, but also simple. So
Amazing. Can we just talk for a second about maybe behind the scenes or like what's coming next for Jane?
yeah, so I mean, there's always so many things. What is coming next?
Well,
Uh,
just thinking about mental health practitioners, is there anything
yeah.
that we should be
Well,
particularly excited about?
I'm really excited for the Google Calendar sync because I know that that is like a huge one for people who are working sort of either part-time or that you're managing multiple schedules. So that's been something that I've been really wanting to prioritize for a long time. So even I have a hard time sometimes getting what I want built. So imagine my frustration. I know you feel frustrated when you can't get something built in Jane. I'm sure everybody does. I also do. But the Google Calendar sync is going to be excellent for that, for just making sure that you're not double booking yourself and you can manage other schedules.
Mhm,
And then we're continuing to work on messaging. The messaging that we launched right now is secure messaging. So it's actually intended for clinical messaging.
mhm,
So I think there is an opportunity there for text-based therapy,
mhm, mhm,
and which you can charge for. And
mhm,
so it is where it started. People really want administrative messaging. That's what I'm excited for down the road. But we're starting with secure messaging,
mhm,
and people can use it to message clinically, which is nice.
mhm,
And specifically, I think in mental health, that's the most um, common use case for clinical messaging would be in the mental health community. Um,
mhm.
and I mean, the AI scribe and AI charting is very exciting for a lot of people. We're
Yeah.
still having a lot of conversations about bringing it into telehealth so that it's unobtrusive, but it can then create the chart notes so you can really focus on what your client is saying or your patient is saying without having to be writing notes the whole time.
Mhm.
So that'll be exciting. What are you excited about?
Well, I'm excited about what you just said about text-based sessions, like text therapy.
Oh, well, that's
Like,
launched.
what?
That's in beta right now, the clinical
Is it?
messaging.
Okay, that's amazing. I mean, I don't do that in my practice, but you just totally piqued my curiosity going,
Oh, that's interesting.
really?
So
So
clinical messaging, secure messaging, you
Mhm,
can't have secure like messaging through text. Like
mhm,
SMS is not secure, neither is email,
yeah.
in the way that it exists now. The technology is just not secure.
Mhm,
And so we have to do messaging with, you can do it within the app because our environment is secure. So
right.
now if you send, once you get back and forth in the app, like people can, it's easy. But right now the notification like is just as like you have a message and you have to go in and that's annoying, but it
Mhm,
is the only way to keep it secure, which is why it's good for clinical messaging. Um,
no,
the
no.
administrative side of things, it seems like, why do you have to do this? Like you're just telling me I'm going to be 10 minutes late and you have to like log in and be in your account. And that seems ridiculous.
Okay.
But the administrative messaging is like a feature that we're layering
Mhm,
um,
okay.
in the future. I can't say timelines. I don't know. They won't even tell me.
Okay.
I don't get to know. But yeah, I'll show you the beta. I'll send
That'd
you.
be amazing. That'd be
Yeah.
great. Yeah. I'd love to ask you just one more question if I can before we wrap things up today. And I'm thinking, particularly about i- our members who are in the process of or thinking about kind of scaling their group practices. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how Jane supports that type of growth or maybe, some common challenges that you're seeing practice owners face and how Jane helps with those.
Yeah, group practice owners. I feel yeah. I feel like that was my story. Um, and there's a lot that it takes a lot to run a practice. So first of
Mhm.
all, I'll say good for you. Good for you for taking that on. I think especially in mental health, it's really lovely that you're creating a space for people to practice because most people don't want to take on that, like the administration of that, the burden of that, the stress of that. So you're doing a great service just by having a group practice. I mean, that's good. That's my first comment.
Mhm.
And then I really love that this is a place that Jane seems to be working really well in the mental health space because Jane was started in a group practice. So it was a group practice that had different disciplines, but the idea is still the same. It's like we
Yeah.
have to manage lots of different practitioners working in one space. So yeah, I'm really thrilled that Jane seems to be a great fit for that style of practice
Mhm.
in mental health, particularly. And um, I don't know if I have any advice necessarily for people that are looking to scale their group practices, other than I'm always curious to know how people decide whether they're going to scale in one discipline or they're going to become multidisciplinary. I
Mhm.
think I think people often think that there's more difference between the different specialties than you think. Do
Okay.
you have people who do primarily just one, just like it's all counselors in one practice, or is there people that ever branch out?
There's a mix for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love what you just said there because in my own group practice, we're all mental health practitioners. And so I love how
Yeah,
you said there's not as much difference between them as you think,
there's
because
not.
I would say that that's probably one thing that's kind
Yep.
of held me to, we're just sticking with mental health. So,
Yeah, and when I started, my parents were physios. I thought I was going to be a physio. Then I thought I was going to be, I have a degree in English and psychology. I don't know.
Mhm.
Now I'm running a tech company, but it was the fascinating thing with like when I first started is I don't know where to find different types of practitioners, and I don't know how to pay them, and I don't know how they work, what do they need.
Right,
But in building out a disciplinary practice, it's like I think the information is more accessible than you think. Like if
right,
I just would interview everyone that I would meet who was of different disciplines. I'm like, what do you need? Why did you get into this? How does that work for you? Like, what's your fee structure like?
right.
And with the internet now, actually, there's no excuse to not know anything. Like you can know everything with the
Find
internet.
it all out. Yes.
It's incredible to me. You just search and there's so much information online. And so once I started learning about all the different disciplines, it really broke down that sort of like the unknown barrier. And the
Hmm.
nice thing about having multiple disciplines is the same patient can come in for multiple services in your one space. And so instead of having to grow 10 counseling practices,
Hmm.
um, the same patient can go to multiple people. And I think that maybe that's true too. Do you do specialized treatment ever where it's like you'll do couples and then you'll do child therapy? And so the same
Yeah,
family could be going to multiple people.
right.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
probably is also a great way of growing a group practice.
I think so. I think it becomes a little bit of like a one, not, quite one-stop shop for all of your health needs, but for your mental health, right?
Yeah,
If
that's
it's an
fascinating.
individual or child therapy or couples or families. Hmm.
That's how legal firms do it. So
Hmm.
you have your like one main legal counsel, and then they just refer you to like same with doctors, like with
Hmm.
specialists.
Yeah,
You just need to
yeah,
think about intentionally scaling your clinic in that way or your practice in that way to fill
absolutely.
the specialties.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, very interesting.
Anyway,
Oh, thank you so much, Ali, for taking the time and making the time to join me today and, really sharing such thoughtful insight into the work that you're doing at Jane. It's so clear to me that, your team and your company is deeply committed to building tools that truly support therapists and practitioners, not just with systems and features, but with the kind of thoughtfulness and integrity that really stands out in this field. So
thank you. That's
thank
so
you.
kind. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me, Liane.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yeah.
Now, for anyone who's listening that wants to explore more, we're going to include links in the show notes so you can dive deeper into everything that Jane offers, as well as the Build Your Private Practice Grace Code that lets you try Jane for a month on us. And if this conversation has sparked something for you, if it made you think differently about how you run your practice, or it reminded you that support is out there, I'd love for you to share it with a colleague or leave a quick review. So thanks so much again for being here. And until next time, take care of yourself the way you take care of others. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Build Your Private Practice podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a fellow Canadian therapist who needs this. And remember, the work you do matters. Keep showing up, keep holding space, and keep building a practice that works for you. If you're looking for practical tools or support to grow your practice with more clarity and confidence, head to buildyourprivatepractice.ca. There's lots waiting for you there. I'll see you next time.